Hey everybody, Fit Fanny here. Today is day 1 of my 75 hard challenge. If you've been following along, you may be confused by that, but it is indeed day 1. I am starting over my 75 hard journey. You may be wondering why, what's going on? Well, I guess the short of it is that yesterday I didn't follow through on my obligations, and while a part of me is probably disappointed in myself, I'm mostly proud of myself, and I'm here to tell you why. I'm getting ready for a wedding, so I'm just trying to do a few things here. Feel free to judge me on my makeup skills. I have no idea what I'm doing, and that's just fine. I don't really care. I pretty much never wear makeup, so yeah. Anyway, this week has been an interesting week. It's been pretty hard. Let me go back. I started 75 hard as a way to build trust with myself, to follow through on the things that I say that I'm going to do, because I have a history of people pleasing, a history of putting other people's needs ahead of my own, and a history of putting work ahead of my own needs. And I'm not saying that as some sort of like saint or like savior complex or whatever. Like, I'm saying that is like, that's not a good thing to do. And it's not like, oh, I'm so great. It's like I'm so fearful. Like, I think people who behave like that, myself included, are doing so from a place of fear. And, in my case, there's a certain degree of like fear of rejection or fear of upsetting people that comes from, potentially neurodivergence related, potentially just how I was raised, or just potentially personality. Whatever the reason, I have a tendency toward that. And so part of the 75 hard is to follow through for myself with what I say I'm going to do. And I really want to honor that. But I think what's interesting is that 75 hard is hard, and it adds a lot of pieces to your life, but it's not your life itself. It's just a piece of your life. And in this case, some of the bigger overarching aspects of life also need to be examined, or are also worthy of examining. I have been unhappy in my job for a couple of years. Some ways I feel like I've changed, and so like it's no longer a good fit. And some ways I feel like it's changed, and so it's no longer a good fit. And in other ways, I just think, sometimes we need to make big changes to continue to learn and grow. And I've been out there, I've been applying for jobs, I've been interviewing, and I haven't landed anything yet. And that's hard. It's hard to be in a position where you're really trying hard, you're putting yourself out there, and you're not really getting what you're looking for. And it's also scary because, I would love to just leave my job, but, bills got to get paid, student loans, house payment, car payment, all the things that we have when we're adulting. And yet, by staying in a job where I'm ultimately not happy, I'm actually breaking trust with myself basically every day by pushing those feelings down, and by continuing to, put myself in a position where I'm miserable. I mean, that's an extreme word, but that's kind of how it is. Maybe not every day is miserable, but overall it is, and there are certain days that are. And I guess, there have been lots of times where I'm like, oh, I would just like to quit, but if I did, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And I finally came to a realization this last week. And it's through a situation. There was like a weird miscommunication thing that happened at work, and it blew up in my face. And did I have a role in the miscommunication? Absolutely. So I take responsibility for my role in that. But what it really made me realize is that I don't actually enjoy the work that I'm doing anymore anyway. And then on top of that, when issues come up, there isn't a system internally where it's safe for a person to advocate for themselves, or for a person to, seek help when a situation comes up. It almost feels kind of like harsh or punitive, and that's not really the kind of environment that I want to be in, or that I feel safe in. And I mean, I'm leaving out a huge amount of detail here, intentionally, but basically I realized that I can be doing 45 minutes of exercise every day. I can be drinking a gallon of water every day. I can be reading my book and not drinking alcohol and eating healthy and doing all of the things, documenting this, taking pictures, blah, blah, blah. But every time I go to a job where I'm miserable, every time I swallow down my feelings because I'm afraid of upsetting somebody else, every time I have to, receive harsh criticism in a situation that isn't necessarily fully mine to own, is a way that I'm breaking trust with myself. And I'm eroding that trust by pushing those feelings down and just pushing through the day, or just pushing through the week, or through the semester, or whatever. And that's not what I'm trying to do anymore. Oh no. I haven't used this in forever, and the thing is clogged, and it's supposed to be a mist, and it was immediately on my eye. This is like a setting spray, so this eye is certainly going to be set. Can we get more of a mist? Yeah, there we go. Much better. I'm laughing partially because I just sprayed myself in the eye, but I'm mostly laughing because I'm doing my makeup on camera, which is funny because I don't usually wear makeup and I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm terrible at this. And there's so much content of people who really know what they're doing. So yeah, it's funny. But I lost my train of thought. But basically, yes, trusting myself. I'm defying I'm eroding my own trust every time I sacrifice a piece of myself for this place. And I've sacrificed a lot, and sometimes that's okay, right? Sometimes we compromise, or we accommodate, or we let things go, and all of that is okay. And all of that is a part of being part of humanity, and a part of a community, and part of a workspace. But it shouldn't be that all the time, and it shouldn't be at the expense of your health, and it shouldn't be at the expense of your home life, and it shouldn't be at the expense of your self-trust and your self-integrity. And so anyway, I'll give one symbolic example, and then I'll wrap things up. But basically, I had to go to my workplace earlier this week to make copies for a conference that I was presenting at. And I got to the parking lot, got out of the car, and I immediately had this pit in my stomach. I felt physically ill just being in the space. I wasn't even in the building, I was in the parking lot. So I started walking into the building, completely forgetting that there's construction happening, and so the door that I normally enter is literally boarded up. So I'm like, shit. So I walk around the corner, that door is locked. I walk around the next corner, door's locked. I walk around the next corner, door's locked. I proceed to walk about a quarter of the way around this building. Every door is locked. And there, I know, are 2 doors that are open. I could absolutely have walked into an open door. But I paused and was like, you are sick to your stomach. You don't want to be here. That door is literally boarded up and all of these are locked. You need to listen to yourself and you need to get out of here. And so it was at that point where I'm like, okay, I'll just make the copies at home. I bought the card stock. I'm just going to print at home. And I proceeded to go to an appointment that I had, and I was an hour early because I was going to make these copies. And I sat in my car, and as I was sitting in my car, I got this email that was very harsh, and that was very blaming and shaming and critical. It really felt like the sender was going for my throat. And as I was sitting there, I just suddenly was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing here? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why am I putting myself through this? And so anyway, I'm making a big change. I'm going to leave my job. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have a job lined up. That is terrifying. But when I analyze all of the worst case scenarios, maybe I don't get another job. Okay, that is bad. What if I go bankrupt? That would be bad. What if I lost my house or had to sell my house? Or what if I had to move back in with my parents? Or what if I had to, I don't know. Like, I was thinking of all of the potential worst case scenarios. All of those sound not good, but they actually sound better than not being able to trust myself every single day. They also sound better than being miserable and being, allowing people to treat me poorly, or just doing something that I don't want to do. And there are plenty of jobs, for example, that I wouldn't necessarily want to do right now at this phase of my career. I worked for a really long time in retail and in the restaurant industry. And while that's not what I want to be doing with my career right now, I actually am like, yeah, I will do that. I would rather do that right now than this career where I'm feeling really unhappy. I actually have a lot of joy from working in the restaurant industry. I love interacting with people, and I like the fast-paced nature, and I like when you're done and you don't take it with you. And when I thought of all right, there isn't really a worse, there isn't something that's more terrible right now than me denying myself my own integrity, my own trust, and my own self-worth. And so what does that have to do with 75 hard? Well, first of all, I've needed to kind of I made it as far as Thursday, as day 19. And yesterday would have been day 20. And I did some of the stuff, but I didn't do the second workout, and I didn't read the book, and I didn't take the picture. And I could have, but I just decided I just didn't want to. I just kind of needed to close a bit of a chapter as I've been going through these thoughts and this sort of revelation. And then I'm like, okay, actually, I am going to start fresh with a new mentality, because now I'm more in alignment. Now that I've made this decision that I need to leave, I'm much more in alignment with what 75 hard is actually about for me. And I'm not really lying to myself or pretending anymore that I'm trusting myself and that I'm taking good care of myself, because now I really more truly am. And so, I haven't resigned yet. I'm going to do that on Monday. And I'm not going to just peace out. I technically could, but I do care about my students and about my colleagues and about the place enough that this will be my last semester. And that also gives me trust in myself that I can get a job that will excite me and that will be good for me and that will give me the balance that I need and that will allow me to build trust with myself and with other people in a healthy way. So yeah, I am back at day 1, but I am delighted to be here. I'm feeling good about my decision to start fresh, and I'm feeling good about my pathway forward, even though I'm scared, I'm uncertain, I don't know what's coming and going, but I'm trying to be optimistic. And I'm not telling anyone, by the way, to leave their jobs. That's just me and what I'm doing. But I'm just sharing my story because I think it's relevant. And also, if you've been following my journey, you might wonder why I didn't post yesterday or the day before. So day 19 is coming. I do have footage. It was actually a really sweet day. I did this really I'm habit stacking and I'm doing so great. And then that's later that day when it all fell apart. But yeah, that video is forthcoming. It just requires a bit of editing. So stay tuned. And stay tuned for the next 75 days, because now I've got 75 more days. Maybe I'll change the name of 75 more challenge or something like that. But yeah, I'm sticking with it. I'm excited about it. I've really enjoyed the challenge. I also think that this decision is actually evidence that 75 hard is working for me, because I'm not just superficially going about this. I'm actually really deeply challenging myself to examine the even the deep, dark, sticky aspects of myself. So anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for following along. Stay tuned for 75 days of fun. And by the time 75 Hard is done, I'll be pretty well through the semester, and hopefully I'll have some life answers about what I'm doing and where I'm going, because at this point, there aren't that many answers besides that I'm just trying to really take good care of myself. And I hope that you are too.